Is Earth the only planet that forgets? Are there other planets, schools per se, where this forgetting happens?
Not in this universe. Um, the part of the reason that the Earth School is watched so much and so closely by so many in your universe is because it is the only one of its kind, only experiment of its kind in this universe. Um, there are in the other universes that our source has made, there are similar um, experiments going on. However, we would say the forgetfulness is not as extreme
Hmm.
in these other universes on these other planets. And so once again, we will um, say that this Earth experiment is the only one of its kind.
Hmm. Is that because of, I've heard that Earth is kind of cordoned off or sealed off because of our use of nuclear weapons. Is that why we forget so hard here?
Um, those would be no, those would be definitely two different subject matters. And we will address the one about forgetting. The forgetfulness was put in place on purpose, and yes, the Earth is sealed off to an extent. Um, Let us see if we can put it in words that you will understand. So, the Earth experiment is on an energetic basis, you might think of as a matrix. And the matrix has uh, is not just a flat matrix. It is very deep, wide, and tall as far as what you might envision a matrix to be. So the depth of um, the depth of the matrix is deeper than anything that we can explain to you. However, what we can tell you is that this matrix is uh, surrounded by what you might call a bubble, so that there are not influences on the matrix that are not what we would say approved for the experiment. Um, the experiment could not happen if we just allowed anyone and anything to penetrate the experiment. So, if you see from the bigger picture an extremely complicated matrix surrounded by a bubble, then that would be, from an energetic standpoint, that would be the blockage of anything to try to penetrate the experiment. And so that is the reason for the forgetfulness, and why we do not allow, um, we as the council and we as source also do not allow what you might call influences to um, help the remembrance, except for the help that was already planned in advance for
Hmm.
the experiment.
That makes sense. It really makes sense to me. I'm thinking of the construct, the structure about the cube, high and deep, wide, forward and back. It leads to more of an expanding of awareness and consciousness. Then is that the purpose of it, so that our awareness can expand rather than our physical existence?
Yes, the 3D existence is energetically is set, you might call it, part of the experiment is has an evolutionary process to it, but it is only part of the evolution. In other words, there is a scale, a large scale of evolutionary process, and the 3D is just um, uh, just a part of that. So let us give you an example. The
Mhm.
evolutionary process, say it goes from the scale goes from 1 to 10. Um, the evolutionary process of 3D may only go from the number 2 or 2.5 to the number 4. Um, and we are not speaking of dimensions at this time. We
Mhm.
are just trying to give you an idea of where the 3D evolutionary process takes place in the entire experimental process. So what we will say is, let's say that the 3D evolutionary um, uh, existence of that part of the matrix that goes, say, from 2.5 to 4, there is a bubble around that 3D part of the matrix that was put in place once it was realized that nuclear weapons would be used on your planet Earth, um, because the repercussions of the reverberations of the frequency of that type of mm, consciousness is not something that we as a council and source want to allow to go past this experiment. So in other words, um, we do not want the 3D matrix to affect from the 2.5 to say 4 on the scale. We do not want that to affect even the 4.1 part of
Mm.
the matrix. And so, yes, there is a bubble around that to for protection of the experience of the experiment. Um, and this bubble did not used to be in place.
Mhm.
And Atlantis was can be viewed as uh, part of the experience that we had as a council to realize that how much that the 3D can affect um, the next level. And so, because of the detriment of some consciousness choices or conscious choices, we decided to put a bubble around the 3D part of the matrix in order to keep the rest of it from uh, becoming affected, and of um, with the possibility of the how would we say, the complete implosion of the experiment.